Speaker of the House. Jane Duker is here, former Chief of Staff to Governor Holden, and Jay Kanzler. Jay, you're up.
Thank you. Back when President Bush was in office, he was criticized, mocked, and ridiculed for his coalition that he was able to put together against the terrorist threat in Iraq. And now we have President Obama putting together a coalition against a terrorist threat, and the same people that were ridiculing, mocking, and criticizing President Bush are jumping on board. I think it's ironic. I applaud President Obama for what he is doing, but what it points out is that Mr. Obama, sometimes being president is very hard, and you have to do the right thing.
Go ahead, Jane.
Well, I mean, I am distressed that we're at this again. I mean, this is not an easy decision, right? And I don't know if we were, you haven't really discussed the importance of Denmark. I mean, I'm concerned by that. No, this does feel like Groundhog Day. I mean, I gotta say, and so I can't dispute what you say. I disagreed with Bush doing it. I'm having huge trouble where we are now. But then I look at the situation of ISIS. But why are we the only ones? I mean, is Iran really going to step up? I mean, that would be unique. That would be something that would be helpful. We have to have someone in the region. And so I do.
Well, they got Saudi Arabia.
Well, right. We always have Saudi Arabia. But, we're
Kuwait's
their
bringing
biggest customer.
croissants.
So we're always going to have Saudi Arabia. But I think, the idea that Iran would be participating in this is something that's, I think, very important. I mean, at some point, when are the stakeholders in the region going to step up? And so, but who wants to be the president when ISIS is doing what they're doing and beheading reporters and doing things that are just evil to the core, and we don't do something about it? You don't want to be that guy. But I also think the idea that we're going to get into that we're coming close again. I mean, are we on the same path as we were? And, are we going to, launch another war or pseudo war that we're going to pretend is not a war, but it is a war? At what point does this stop?
There's a couple of differences. One, that they haven't necessarily said they're going to put troops on the ground.
Well, he said he hasn't, but
there are troops on the ground there already.
Right, but they're in more of a support role. And
Right.
so on and so forth.
The SEALs and the Army Rangers, you bet they're there.
Yeah, they're
right
not
now.
the secretarial pool.
Yeah, I don't
Right.
mind the secret war. Just let us know when these bad guys are killed.
Yeah.
That's the kind of war I want to run. John Deal, go ahead.
Right, and that gets to my point. All of the very, very bad totalitarian regimes and the reasons we start world wars have all started as local conflicts. And what this president, I think, needs to do is get on TV and get over to Congress and explain what is the threat we're facing and what is the plan. Is this just a
and
local...
what is the standard for success?
Right. Well,
what is success in these endeavors?
But is this just a local skirmish? If this is just a local skirmish, then I agree we got to get the locals, the people in the area, to help take care of the problem. But if this is a threat, if this is a Nazi Germany rising, okay, or if this is something like World War I, which is a bunch of local skirmishes that developed into a world war, which is it? Okay, and if this is a Nazi Germany rising, a gathering storm that's going to affect our cities and our country, we can't wait around to see whether or not the United Arab Emirates is going to come on and try to help us out. We need to go eradicate it. And that's what the president needs to get on TV and say. Is this local alliances and local allegiances and local battle lines that we're trying to decide which side to get on for some sort of long-term strategic interest? Or is this a long-term serious threat to our way of life,
national security?
and
Yeah,
our
but hold on,
national
but I mean,
security,
I don't
and you
think-
have to
I don't
eradicate it.
think
I
in
think
fr-
it's the latter.
Yeah, I don't think in 3 years they're going to have a peace signing on the USS Missouri somewhere.
So go eradicate it.
Right. I mean, this is not a what does victory look like? There is no end to this war. It's just sort of ongoing. There are these people who want to do bad things, who want to create this sort of problem and these issues, and they're going to go and they live in these dark places and in this dark world, and we got to go and root them out.
You have to
Really,
keep
forever.
setting
I
them
mean,
back.
just see, this is my problem. I mean,
for as long as they're trying to do bad things to us.
Is there an analysis being done that what we're doing is actually preventing anything? I mean, at some point, doesn't the United States need to say, we're draining our economy, we're doing, at what point are we extending ourselves beyond a place that we're even doing any good? Why
Because
would
we're
we do
because
this
we're
without
trying-
ever knowing
because
whether
we're-
we are going to actually do? And what is the national security interest? Are we worried they're going to do another 9/11? I mean, what are we talking about?
Well, I think, in my mind, again, I don't get invited to the briefings, but that's exactly what I think this is headed. Those folks are moving their way across the Middle East so they can hop on a plane or a boat or a train and end up here in the United States or in the UK or other places where U.S. national interests are at issue, and they're going to do something like 9/11. That's their goal.
If these guys are as bad as they say they are, if the fact that Iran is actually wanting to team up with America, that should at least show us that,
I agree that this
these
is-
guys are actually not very good.
That would be
But
like
we
Nixon
shouldn't
and the
wait
legislature
to-
getting
just to
together.
see, but that shouldn't be just, okay, if this is truly a threat to us, we shouldn't leave the defense of our national security in the hands of whether or not Iran decides to get involved. This is just like Europe in the 1930s. Okay, you have a committed radical forces trying to take over a continent or a region to then spread its philosophy worldwide.
I'm not.
Okay?
s-
Well, then we own the world.
Well, hold on
And
a second.
there's really
just
no line
just
there.
in case someday, if I ever run for office, I don't want this hanging out there. I'm not saying we need Iran's approval to
Right.
go.
And I'm not either. I
I'm
just think
saying
it's-
the fact that they are means
Right.
that this threat is real, and it's another example of this threat's
Because this
real.
threat
and we're
is
gonna
real to everybody. So why are we the only ones going in there and doing anything
because
about
we're
it?
the world superpower.
Right.
Because we're
Just ask us.
Well,
Right.
Well, but wait a minute. Once we
Because
pull
we
back,
do.
if we pull back and we don't do anything, nothing will get done.
I mean,
I think
we've
the
never
problem
tried.
is, Jane, that the
I'm not saying
UK,
Well, wait a
the
minute.
UK is stepping up, and because they recognize the threat, but the other places that are not stepping up are probably places that are not likely to be directly attacked by these folks. These folks, ISIS, and their mentality is get to the United States and do damage to the United States.
They also were doing massive damage to Iraq with that Mosul dam, and we went in, and they were going to take over all of that stuff. And if that dam would have collapsed, millions of people would have died, and the U.S. stepped in and did the right thing. And there's some success going on in Iraq. So again, if we don't act, nobody acts.
Well, I mean, I just then it never ends, and we need to sort of say it and say,
Or
look,
you need to
we sorta-
eradicate it.
Okay, so how do you eradicate
just
it?
We have a really
Bomb 'em
big
out?
bombs.
Do you right?
Right.
Well, I mean, level it then. Level it and call it a day. I mean, if that's,
And World War II ended.
right.
Well, but that's
we had a lot of skin in that
World
game.
War II is a different
Right.
animal.
And they
It's a
bombed us.
different enemy.
How did it start?
yeah.
Well, okay.
Hitler.
How
okay.
did Nazi Germany start?
Well, he was elected.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
All right.
ISIS isn't a state.
Right.
It
They say
doesn't.
they
They're not
are.
a
They
legit.
say
Well, I
they
know,
are.
but there's no legit.
But we
they-
waited
look, it's
to
not
be
a perfect
bombed
parallel,
before we
but-
got into
But there
World
are
War
also
II.
parallels, okay? And the parallels are what we have now. Well, this isn't our battle. The people in Europe back then need to solve this problem, okay?
We waited
Until
a
it gets
long
to a
time.
point where all of a sudden, hey, wait a minute, we got a problem here. And
Pearl Harbor.
I don't know
Right.
what the end.
They
and
attacked us
it's
directly.
a little
They attacked us.
bit
Yeah, but Japan attacked us, and then we went to go solve the Germany problem first.
because we waited until it happened.
Right, because no one else was able to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the point being is we don't know what the situation is. I think that's part of the reason why the president needs to get and explain, just what you said, Jane, what is the mission, what is it we're trying to accomplish, what is the threat.
When Germany
Right.
surrendered, the soldiers put down their arms and went home. Right.
Right, this
When
is totally
when
different.
Iraq surrendered, all their bad guys withered off into the wandering
Into the
desert
caves,
and then
right.
joined up with ISIS. So this is just the bad guys from Iraq who are sort of reappearing as ISIS.
Well, there were people that thought Al
But
Qaeda
we
wasn't
also
bad
got
enough.
out.
Yeah, and again,
Yes,
I
well,
understand McGraw,
that's
but
George
what
Bush. George
because
Bush
it
signed
is
that.
because it is not an exact parallel does not mean that it is something that we should not address. Who knows whether they put their weapons down? Look what Iraq did; they put their weapons down and went running the first time, in the Gulf War.
Right.
Right.
All
We're
right.
still there.
We got a break. That was actually a very interesting and well thought out, educated a discussion about foreign policy. We'll try and do better next time. We
Right.
apologize.
Right.
John
It's
Deal,
Friday.
Jay Kanzler, Jane Duker, back in a moment. Boardroom on the Big